Good evening, everybody. I'm Mayor Cornell Harvey, and welcome to the City Commission meeting for Wednesday, November 4th. Uh, we're having a virtual meeting via Zoom, and it's streamed live also on Facebook. I would like to welcome everybody who's here. And before I get started, I want to let you know that we may be having some technical problems with some of our panelists who are on this on the committee, on the commission, excuse me. So please bear with us. Uh, so without further ado, I'd like to call to the order the Brunswick City Commission meeting dated Wednesday, November the 4th. We will have an invocation led by Commissioner Felicia Harris, followed by a pledge of allegiance um, led by Mayor Pro Tem Julie Martin.
Let us bow our heads. Most heavenly, most gracious Father, Spirit of the one true and living God, Lord, we thank you for this opportunity to come before you to sup with you at your table. We pray now, God, for each and every person gathered under the sound of my breath. We pray now, God, for the city of Brunswick. We pray now for the commission, for the mayor, for those that will be making decisions, God. We ask now, God, that you will lead us and guide us in our decision-making process. We ask for the continued protection of the city of Brunswick as well as the county of Glenn. We thank you now for each and every one of our citizens. We thank you now for each and every one of our concerned constituents. We pray now, God, that we will move through this meeting and that you will lead us and guide us as only you can. In your most holy and precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please rise for the pledge, if you're able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Harris, for that heartfelt invocation. And also thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for leading us in our Pledge of Allegiance. Understanding that we are here, we're all Americans, and we strive to do things that will make us good citizens in the city of Brunswick, county of Glenn, and the United States of America. Since we got on board, before we get into our meeting, I need to have an executive session, and then we will come back and start our meeting. Can I have a motion to go into executive session?
Motion, Mayor Pro Tem Martin, to move to executive session and return to the regular scheduled meeting.
Okay, it's for, Brian, what's it for?
You would need to announce the purpose, whether it be litigation or against litigation.
Litigation, okay.
Purpose being litigation.
Second.
Motion second for us to go into executive session for litigation. All in favor, please say aye and raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed have the same sign, same right. It appears the ayes have it. Okay, we will go into executive session and we will come back. Hopefully the executive session will last no longer than maybe about 10 to 15 minutes. We'll come back and then we resume our regular scheduled meeting. So everybody who's on board with us live, please be patient enough and we shall return.
hey, I'm trying to get into the executive session. This thing, I don't understand this thing right now.
Well, you don't have to look computer next time, so it should work.
Did they send you a link?
Possibility. So with that being said, to kind of wrap it back up and just sort of discuss maybe what options might be available to the city that could be unique in attempting to avoid a lawsuit, but also to take action against the monument in these words.
I want to welcome everybody back to our city council meeting. We had an executive session. No votes was taken, only discussion of litigation. So now we are coming back into our regular scheduled meeting. I see that everybody is on board. Yes, everybody's on board. Okay. Starting off, our first item on our agenda is discussions revision to stormwater management ordinance. Mr. Garrett Albertson, our city engineer and public works director, is presenting.
Good evening. As you mentioned, this item is a revision to our stormwater management ordinance. As you know, our stormwater network, our pipes and our ditches that collect our stormwater around town, they all drain to the adjacent rivers and marshes on each side of the city. That drainage or that discharge of the stormwater pipes is allowed under what's called the NPDES MS4 permit. That stands for Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System permit, and that's administered by the Georgia Environmental Protection Division. That permit is renewed every 5 years, and then each year we have requirements for annual reporting and to make sure we're keeping up with the requirements of that MS4 permit. One of the current requirements of the MS4 permit is that we adopt what's called the Coastal Stormwater Supplement of the Georgia Stormwater Management Manual. And what those are, the Georgia Stormwater Management Manual is a design manual to help municipalities, designers, engineers, property owners design and manage ways to better discharge stormwater runoff. And the Coastal Supplement is geared more towards coastal Georgia. Kind of as with everything in Georgia, when the Stormwater Management Manual was written, it was written kind of around Atlanta, based around Atlanta. And of course, we've got a whole different environment down here. So the Coastal Supplement was written and implemented a couple of years later to be better geared towards our coastal environment down here. But now this MS4 permit is requiring that cities adopt the Coastal Supplement. And what it does, it's going to provide better design guidelines and design recommendations to help us manage and help designers and engineers manage the stormwater runoff coming from their property. So I wanted to go through the high points of this ordinance change real quick with you. Brian may can correct me, but I believe we have this reading tonight, and then we'll have a second reading where we will adopt it. So we're not looking to adopt anything tonight, but I just wanted to kind of go over the changes to this ordinance with you tonight. At the beginning of the ordinance, I included a copy of the revised ordinance with your packs. I hope you can all have your copy of that to be able to follow along. At the beginning of the ordinance, some of the initial information or initial wording was removed, the finding of facts and that kind of thing. That was removed, and I'll have to let Brian give you a little more information on exactly why that was removed or how, how that affects the overall ordinance. But as far as the stormwater portion of it, in sections 22A-6, which is on starts on page 2, the definitions. We added a couple of definitions for the coastal stormwater supplement, definition for infiltration. A couple.
We were not provided any of this information. I mean,
No,
I
I
don't,
don't have any of it.
I don't know if
I
anybody
don't have,
does.
I don't have that either.
You're speaking a foreign language at this point, Garrow. I'm sorry.
Do you guys not have a copy of the red line version?
We
Nope.
do not.
We don't have nothing.
We don't have anything.
Okay.
Our first
Um,
enclosure is with item number 2 under
Which
approval.
is,
This is under discussion with no enclosures.
Understood.
so
This-
the only thing we have is the budget adjustment for an extra crew. There's nothing that Garrow's talking about. Do we have in our budget?
Yeah, that's not
Let
in
me
our.
see if I can
I
share
don't have
my
any.
screen here.
Here.
One second, I can,
Here, I can if you need me to.
can you? Okay, I'm gonna-
It's a rather, let me see.
How time sensitive is this?
It has to be adopted by the end of this year.
Okay,
So we were planning to read it tonight and then adopt it at the next meeting.
I mean, in the alternative, you could ask that it be deferred and we could place it on the agenda on the 18th. And then have it read, and that would be essentially the first reading, and then have it adopted on December
Second.
2nd.
December
Thank you.
2nd.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll make the motion that we defer.
Okay,
And it's
Second.
in a red line form that could be, I mean, it's ready to go, first reading, second reading. I don't see it in reading for it to be needed.
I got a
And,
motion on the floor to defer this to our next meeting. And I have a second as well. Are there any further discussion or comments? City Attorney, I thank you for telling us we could defer it to 18th and then have it adopted on the 2nd of December. Am I right?
Correct.
Any further comments? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye and raise your hand, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
okay, sorry about that.
Opposed have the same right. It appears the ayes have it. Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. Sorry about that, Garrow. We will
No problem, my fault,
entertain this at our next meeting.
no problem.
Okay. Our next item to consider for approval, consider approval of October 21st, 2020 regular scheduled meeting minutes. Take a moment or two to approve that, please, and I entertain a motion on that too as well.
I have one correction.
Yes.
Under item 5,
Mhm.
I did not vote yes. I voted no. So it was not unanimous.
Okay. Please reflect.
Other than that, I make a motion to approve it with that correction.
Second.
Okay, motion second for the approval of our minutes with the stated corrections stated by Mayor Pro Tem Martin. Are there any further corrections or additions or deletions or whatever? All in favor of approving the minutes as amended, please say aye.
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 Raise your hand.
Opposed have the same right. It seems the ayes have it. That motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for bringing that to our attention. Okay. All right, we're down to our next item. I think the item which a number of people are probably on board to hear us discuss, and that is decision regarding Confederate monument located in Hanover Square. We have been beating this up for a long time. We had a committee put together to give us some options. Committee gave us one option. We've had town hall meetings about it just as well. And now we have been trying to wrap our heads around the legalities of it all. But just recently, we got some new information legally, so it necessitates us deferring this until our next meeting. I hate to do that, but we need to do that because of the new information we got just recently, and also dealing with the lawsuits that are pending in around the state of Georgia. But we got some new information that we need to address before we make a decision on this monument. So I will entertain a motion to defer it again, and I apologize to everybody for having to do this. But
I'd like to offer a motion to defer this item until our next meeting in November.
Second.
Okay, motion second for defer this item to our next meeting in November. Any comments? And again, I apologize for having to do this, but I think we must do this. So, all right, no comments, no questions. All in favor of deferring it to our next meeting, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Opposed have the same right? It seems there's no opposed, so that motion carries unanimously. Please put it on our agenda, Ms. City Clerk, for our next meeting, in which we will vote on the disposition of this statute. Thank you. Item number 4, consider approval of financial reports as of September 30, 2020. Ms. Mills will be presenting, our city finance director.
Okay, you have before you the financial statements as of September 30th, which is 25% completion for the year at that point. The revenues monthly are 5.3 million with expenditures of a little over 1 million. Year to date, 6.9 million revenues and expenditures of $2.1 million. I want to explain that a little bit. We are now booking our tax revenue the way we've been supposed to be booking it, which is they prefer that you book it all at the time the levy is assessed, and we book the entire amount to revenue and book an adjustment for the amount we feel will be uncollectible. So you're seeing there the majority of the revenue already booked for the tax revenue, the tax digest. It's just a little bit earlier. You would see most of it coming in November and December anyway. But I just want you to be aware of that's why the month is so good there. There is $3.7 million cash on hand. $1 million of that is at Prime South, and the remaining is over at Georgia Fund 1. If you'll look at our loss distributions for September, we had $817,000 as opposed to last year of $557,000. That's a difference of approximately $286,000, which I made you a little note there at the bottom because that is such a significant amount. And I believe I sent everyone an email back when we got that money. We received a one-time audit adjustment from the Department of Revenue for the $268,000, which had to do with some companies, and they do not tell which company it is, but apparently a major retail company that was paying their sales tax revenue to the state directly, and the money was not being divided up between the cities and counties. They went back and audited it for the period from 2015 to 2018. It's been correct since then, apparently. And so this is a one-time adjustment that we received. Glenn County got a huge amount also based on what their distribution is. There were a lot of cities and counties in the state of Georgia that got that extra money too. So that was good news, but it won't be as good as that going forward. But I did want to make a point that if we had not had that money, our lost revenue for the month would have been like $550,000. And last year it was like 557. So we would have been very close to what we received in September of 2019. So you can see that COVID has not really hurt us much sales tax wise. And you'll see year to date, we're 15% higher this year than last year. And of course, like I said, a part of that is due to that audit adjustment. Title ad valorem tax, we were 71% higher for the month. Year to date, we are at a negative 5.44%, but title ad valorem tax is going up every month. The reason it shows the 5.44 negative for year to date is because the very first month of the year, we were still collecting at the old rate. The money we received in July was for June, and they didn't change the distribution amount until July 1st. So the first month we saw an increase was in August. So, I mean, that's encouraging, though, that we're looking at the month of September, and it is significantly higher than it was in September of last year. If you go to page 2, we have our SPLOST 6 schedule. And I'll put you some lines across there, Commissioner Kaysen. We have all of the middle column shows how much we as the city have expended as of September 30th and what our original budget amount was in that next column. And the last column shows how much we have left, or if the project was has been finished, what the overage was. I want to make a note that I'm showing their sidewalk replacement and upgrades is over by $35,000, but Mr. Albertson let me know that we got $50,000 from DOT back in, I think it was 2018, that I was thinking was for sidewalk or for paving of streets. And he said that had been designated for sidewalks. So basically I have the first 1 million in paving the street should have a remainder of $1,508,000. And then the sidewalks should be up, that should have still a balance left or spend of like 15,000. Grand totals are the same. It's just that those two little divisions, and I'll correct that on the next report. As you'll see in the bottom left-hand corner, I have cash on hand of $7,229,000. The overage in collections, $888,742. September, let's see, this is as of September 30th. There was one more collection in October. And actually there's a lag in the SPLOST distributions between regular loss distributions. So we also not only got a bump in our sales tax distribution, which we received in September because of that audit adjustment for that company, we also got more SPLOST money in the month of October, which you'll see next month when we do the thing. So, but at this point we had overages of September 30th, $888,000, more than what we had originally budgeted to come in from SPLOST 6. And then we have the Georgia aviation fuel tax, which was a one-time thing of $16,000, and interest earned as of September 30th of $217,000. And so that gives us a total of unallocated funds of $1.1 million. You'll notice that if you look at my schedule in the right-hand corner, we do have a couple of overages. The fire station improvements were over budget, about $67,000, and the Overlook Park improvements were over budget by about $22,000. So we'll need to allocate, some of that money to cover those two shortages, but there is a good bit of unallocated funds.
Can you explain the overages, or could we get Ms. McDuffie or someone to explain those overages and where they might come out of?
It's, well, you mean why they have occurred, or what we want to do with it? Why they occurred is, if you'll see in that next to the last column, our original budgeted amount was $13,832,154. That was the amount that was estimated to come in when SPLOST 6 was first passed. And that's what we had allocated projects to. Our projects came up to $13,832,154. But because sales tax revenue has been higher than was anticipated, we have collected more than what was budgeted by $888,742. In some cases, and we had this discussion earlier, as I think some SPLOST resolutions will cut it off and say, once you get that amount that you ask for of the 13,832,000, then the SPLOST stops. But that's not the case with this SPLOST. So that's additional funds that we have.
Okay.
Okay, if you go to the next page, we have SPLOST 5, and there is a balance of $1.3 million in the SPLOST 5 account. Norwich Street Commons, we've not had any activity other than earning some interest on those funds. There's a balance of $335,000 roughly. The Roosevelt Harris Multipurpose Center, we are at 25% of the year, and we've got a percent of budget of inflows of 25.9%, expenditures 19.77%. We have transferred from the general fund to subsidize Roosevelt Harris Center $30,000. We have a budget to transfer from the general fund for the year of $100,000. Okay, the next page is the sanitation fund. You'll see total revenues year to date show $292,000. And we also have operating expenses, $311,000, which gives us a shortage of about $19,000, which is not unusual. We anticipate that because we are in September, which that should say, okay, that's right. In September, we don't get much. We'll start getting sanitation fees coming in so a little bit in October, and then of course November and December, the funds we collect off the property tax bill for sanitation fees, and we'll see those numbers turn around. But we do have a cash balance for the sanitation fund of $267,000. And we also have another $194,000 that we had set aside for the T Street landfill in case we need that for that. Sanitation bills and refuse and street sweeping remain about the same every month. The normal bill that we pay out to Republic runs around $128,000 every month. Stormwater utility fund is much like the sanitation fund. We don't show much in revenue year to date because mostly these are just, the revenues are just things that have come in that were late. And once again, now that the property tax bills have gone out, we will start to see money coming in on those. But we do have a cash balance as of September 30th of $199,000 in the sanitation fund. No animal control, traffic control, or recreation department expenses for the facilities. The last page is the Roosevelt Lawrence Center, and you'll see total expense, $7,082, and obviously the majority of that, $4,600, is for salaries and benefits. The others are basically just normal building expenses and electricity, that type of thing. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to try and answer them.
Any questions for Ms. Mills? I got one question on page number 3, Norwich Street Common Fund. I thought we had that $335,000 for micro loans with the URA or something.
Yeah, that has not come to fruition yet. I mean, that was the plan, but the money's still sitting there. I don't know if there are things going on behind the scenes that I'm not seeing. Okay. I know Mr. Stegall was working on that.
Now, you know that we went through and approved the revolving loan for those funds and the grants. So that money would be used for that revolving loan and the grant process.
Okay, would it stay where it's at while it's being used?
Well, it'll stay in that account until it's granted out or loaned out, and then it'll start showing, money coming back in for the loan or money going out for the grants.
All right. Okay. Any further questions, commissioners?
I make a motion that we approve the finance report as presented.
Second.
Motion second for the approval of the finance report as presented. Any further comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand, say aye. Aye. Opposed have the same right. Hearing none from the opposers, I believe the ayes have it. That motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Mills.
You-
Okay, our next item is item number 5, consider approval of budget adjustment, adding of stormwater utility crew. Mr. Albertson, you are presenting again.
All right, hopefully this one works a little better. So as you know, we have several divisions within the stormwater or in the Public Works Department. Stormwater division, streets, parks and cemeteries, and facilities. But tonight, this has to do with the stormwater division, formerly the ditches and drains division. And all of our divisions are funded by the general fund except the stormwater division, which since 2018, when we formed the utility, this division, we moved ditches and drains over into the stormwater utility, and the stormwater utility revenue funds this division, all our personnel salaries, equipment, and everything for the stormwater crew. So within that division, right now, we kind of have two parts of that division. We have a crew that maintains our open ditches, and then we have another crew that maintains our inlets and pipes. But talking about the open ditch division, those guys, there's only currently 3 positions dedicated to the ditch maintenance within the stormwater utility division. So that's a lot of area to keep up with all our ditches in town for those 3 crew members to keep up with. And, you know, recently with these heavy rains and you know, not just recently, but it's become apparent that there's more to keep up with than those 3 crew members can keep up with. And in the past, we've kind of had the luxury of also having the Department of Corrections crew to help us out. And obviously we've not had those guys since March. And, you know, we have no time frame or no indication of when we might get them back, if we get them back. So kind of looking at ways that we can move forward and better handle our drainage issues, talking with Ms. McDuffie, and we decided to look into adding another stormwater crew. And the cost breakdown to add that crew is included in your package on the third page of this.
Will you make sure that that's included? Because I don't have it in the information that I have, but I can share it on my screen. Do you all have that information?
Yes.
Yeah, it's dated October 22nd.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
All right, so the first half of it deals with the remainder of this year, kind of assuming that if it were approved tonight, we would start hiring crew members at the beginning of December. That would give us 7 months remaining in this fiscal year. So the salaries in this are based on the adjusted pay scale that was recently approved. So for these 7 months of salary, insurance, uniforms and whatnot, then we would need to purchase a vehicle for that crew and some equipment for them. That brings us at a total cost of $105,231 for the remainder of this fiscal year. And then going forward in future years, beginning in July 1st of 2021, going forward, that would, the annual cost would be approximately $107,485. That for future years, obviously could be budgeted into the utility budget calculations each year. But looking at this initial year and how we would fund that, as we mentioned, we have the Department of Corrections crew, which is budgeted, and that's a line item that we're not using right now. We also have a contingency line item in there for some unexpected things that might come up. We could use part of that to fund that, and I'll let Ms. McDuffie speak a little more also to some ideas that she has about how this may be funded and financed through the remainder of this year.
Yes, based on the budget that we set for the stormwater utility, and I can go to, let me see if I can share my screen for a moment. Looking at last year's budget, we had budgeted, let's see, as you can see, they budgeted $862,000 for revenue, and we actually had $1,016,000. Plus, we have some unpaid utilities that amounted to about $50,000 a year, which we will get. So we're estimating that our revenue, and we only budgeted for this year $868,000, which we're still thinking that will come close to $1 million on revenue for our storm utility fees. So we will have enough money for this year coming in for the revenues to support the additional cost.
What is the differential between, I can't remember the number off the top of my head. I know we have had 3 crews from the Bacon County Department of Corrections.
Normally that has been budgeted for 40. I think this year we were budgeting 49,000. Last year, as you can see on the screen, it was budgeted at 39,000. We spent 27,000 last year. But normally we budget about, well, we budgeted this year 49,000.
Each crew increased approximately $10,000 this year.
That's what I thought. So that's a pretty big
We have.
differential. So the what's being proposed are full-time employees. We're pulling in full-time employees to replace a contractual situation that the city had with the Bacon County Department of Corrections.
Yes.
We will go back again, will we?
Well, the thing is, if the Department of Correction crews, they are, difficult at best to manage and they're inconsistent. Yeah. But if we get to a point where we do have those coming back, these crews are always going through, people leaving and coming. So what we would do was look at whether we would reduce the crews through attrition. If we lost someone, we wouldn't hire anybody back. If we had the Department of Correction crews coming in or something, to that effect. The only expense that's really one that will not necessarily go away is for the truck. And I'm sure they'll need a truck even if we don't use it for that crew.
So we're looking at the crew, the Department of Corrections crew, as sort of a discretionary, depending, but we're going ahead and we're hiring full-time employees to pick up where we need to, because we've been without these crews since March, which I think we're all feeling that effect.
Yeah, and let me show you something else last year. Last year, you didn't have and I don't know, we had the Department of Correction crews, but we also, if you look, we spent $25,000 of overtime, and then we spent $66,000 of contract labor in addition to the $27,000 of contract for the DOC. So even though we had the Department of Corrections, we still spent about $90,000 on labor. And based on what my conversations with Garrow, most of it was for temporary service to assist with the ditch crews and overtime to assist with the ditch crews. So we were already spending the money. We were just spending it in a different manner.
Well, that's very helpful to know. So I appreciate that, because it's hard to conceptualize going from 35 to 39,000 to 105,000 for the balance of this fiscal year, and then 107,000 for the next fiscal year. So I appreciate the further explanation.
Well, I'd just like to say, cleaning those ditches, stormwater is a priority for our city. We've been getting beat up left and right about flooding. And so this is something that will help alleviate that. I personally would like thought maybe a contractual with somebody else, not necessarily the DOC, but someone who can really get in there and do it. But we can have this crew dedicated to cleaning out our ditches and hold them accountable. Then I think that's the best thing we can do, because it'd be best for our whole city. We need to get a schedule of the ditches to be clean, put it on a maintenance schedule or rotation or whatever.
And that's exactly what we want to do. We want to get a accounting for all of the ditches, because there's some that has obviously been missed for years.
Yes.
So I'm asking Public Works to do a full assessment. We got, citizens who are telling us about ditches, so that we can basically know where all of them are. And just as you said, Mayor, put them on a maintenance schedule and have these crews, regularly going to all of the ones that have not been serviced over the years.
Well, it puts the control back in our hands too. And I think it helps us to be much more responsive and preventative as we move forward, which is good.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to say that this was brought before the Finance Committee, and Commissioner Harris and myself looked at it very closely, and we felt like it would be a good move for the city of Brunswick because of the underlying conditions that we deal with stormwater and getting things moving when storms come along. So we thought that this would be a great idea, and we applauded Ms. McDuffie and her staff for getting this before us so quickly.
Okay. I appreciate that. I appreciate the Finance Committee. I know y'all really tore it up and digested it and figured it all out. So we appreciate that too. I'm glad to have you guys on the Finance Committee to do that. So when it comes before us, we know it has been very well vetted by the time it comes to us. So are there any other comments?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask, when are we going to get some prison crews back here? What's the schedule for doing that?
We don't know.
At this point, we don't have any, as far as I know, any information. As long as COVID is a threat to those communities, I'm pretty sure they are not going to allow them to come out. And with the current status, I don't see for the near 6 months or up to a year.
Are y'all staying in touch with them?
Yes, sir. We speak to them pretty regularly, and like she said, as long as this virus is an issue, they can't give us any idea of when they might get the crews back out.
So is anybody getting any crews?
No, sir, they're not sending any crews anywhere.
The county isn't getting theirs. We aren't getting ours. All right, one thing I see here is I see a truck for $40,000 in here. What's wrong with the vans that we've got? Are they being used, the ones that we had for the prisoners? Would that work?
Possibly. We would need to look at that. It may be more difficult equipment in a van like that rather than a truck with an open bed on the back. The longer weed eaters and those kind of trimming tools, but we can certainly look at that option.
Another thing I offer is.
Well, let me ask a question in conjunction.
Go away. It's not going out of town. So why do you have to have a new vehicle? And could you not consider going to the Georgia Power auction and looking at a Georgia Power vehicle that has been maintained in a maintenance program and not spend $40,000?
We may be able to, and if we do, that's just coming out ahead of time. I think we felt it was better to budget 40 and spend less than to budget 20 and spend more. So that's kind of the logic there.
So who's in possession of the truck? Because I know that we had to provide a truck to the Bacon County Department of Corrections for them to come and go. So where is that truck or those trucks? And don't we have ownership?
We do have ownership, and those are at our public works yard.
Okay.
Okay, any further
So-
comments?
Well, I guess where does that leave us with vehicle? I mean, do we need a vehicle? I mean, we've got budgeted 40,000. Are we just using what we currently have in Public Works, or?
We'll vet that and let the commission know what, avenue we take. There may be some, as Mr. Kaysen said, DOT vehicles that we can look at, or, used vehicles, and certainly look at what the best option is for that, as well as looking at using the vans that we have.
Georgia Power's auction at Noonan, lots of options to not spend $40,000.
What about the vehicles that we had that we declared surplus that, is that a possibility?
Please don't make us go. If we declare them surplus, they need to go.
That's right. If we're getting rid of them, they're
Yeah,
past
if
the
we're
point.
getting rid of them, we need to get rid of them because there'll only be a maintenance expense, but we can
Good
look at another
question,
used
Sylvester.
vehicle.
Good question.
Yeah, I think we'll put that vehicle on rotational too to make sure that,
The reason I was asking the question is, if we're gonna go to somebody else's auction and buy their stuff, why can't we use what we have already?
Well, if you go to the Georgia Power auction, those are they've got a maintenance program and they're maintained vehicles. I've done it a lot. I really have. It's a good, if they have an auction period, Garrow, and it suits your time frame. I mean, it's just a drive up to Noonan.
well, if it's
Well,
a good truck,
we'll look into it.
I'm sure he can take a look at that. I'm not gonna just buy no trash. If it's something that we can use in the program, I'm pretty sure it'll be considered. But they need to make sure that they are getting these ditches, get to the site, do what they need to do. And I trust Mr. Albertson's opinion of what they need. So I think we can go ahead and
Thank you.
move forward.
All right, well, I'll, if it's appropriate, I'll make a motion that we approve the budget adjustment to allow for the implementation of additional ditch maintenance crew with the caveat that we review any need for trucks or equipment and be judicious about expending that money.
Second.
Okay, it's been probably motion second. Motion by Mayor Pro Tem and second by Commissioner Williams and Commissioner Harris for us to move forward with this, with the caveat that she stated about the truck, judiciously looking for to vet that out. Excuse me. So, are there any further comments concerning this? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Opposers have the same right. Hearing nothing from the opposing side, I believe the ayes have it. That motion carries. Thank you so much, Commissioner.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Garrow. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Next item is consider approval of 17 alcohol beverage license renewals. Monday is presented.
Rebecca, Monday.
A Monday on a Wednesday?
Every day's a Monday.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Tonight I have 17 businesses that have applied for a renewal of their alcohol licenses and permits. These permits vary from beer, wine, and distilled spirits. The applicants have submitted all their necessary paperwork. Criminal backgrounds have been conducted on the owners and/or managers. Nothing negative has been found on any application that would prevent the applicant from possessing an alcohol license. The list is before you and I present them for your consideration.
Commissioners, what's your will and pleasure?
There's no change in what they currently have versus what they're looking to request for the upcoming year. Is that correct?
That's correct. There is
Okay.
2 other listed with summary of notation for renewals.
Okay.
We'll do them all at one time.
I think so, then.
I'll make a motion that we approve all 17 alcohol beverage license renewals.
Second.
Motion second to, for the approval, of all 17 alcohol beverage license renewals. Further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed have the same right. Hearing none from the opposing side, I believe the ayes have it. That motion carries. Our last item on our agenda is discussion of the Millen Foundation grant, and that's on the Commissioner Cason item. Commissioner Cason, you have the floor.
That's on my item, but I would like for our city manager to discuss it, if she will, please.
Okay.
Well, this was an email that we got basically talking about a monument project that is being introduced by the Millen Foundation. We did go in and Devani Williams, our deputy city clerk, researched that item and provided a memo to us regarding the options that we have. The reason that we did not do anything with it or come back with to the commission is because we felt like the commission needed to make a decision in regards to what direction the city wanted to go. But further researching that particular item, I found out that that program is not one that we can necessarily submit proposals directly to. You have to be invited into that program in order to participate. I did send a correspondence to the program to see what the steps are that we need to take in order to do that, but they gave me I guess, automatic email response saying that they would get back to us or answer our question within a month's time. But at this point, I think, we have to have some clear direction, some clear proposal in order to even engage that process. And that's basically what we were, once Devani did his research, we were basically waiting for a decision to be made to find out which direction to go.
A decision from the commission?
Yes, because I mean, and again, even after then, I don't know, and I will go, because I did look at that program, and one of the things that it shows, let's see if I can find it. I don't know if I can find that program right now, but it was showing that they do not necessarily take applications from, I'm trying to find it, from programs such as ours. They basically, you have to have them invite you into that process in order to engage it. And I don't know what it takes to be invited into that process, but that's basically what I sent an inquiry about to their program.
Well, I'd say we've done as much as we can do then until we get invited in.
Well, until we know what direction we're going to take, and then until we know how we go about getting invited in. Yes.
Well, you got 3 options here. I mean, would these 3 options not be one of the ways that we would go, or?
It is, but in order to go to them, we need to have a clear direction. We probably need to have a clear proposal of what we want to do. And, that kind of outline so that it can, I guess, meet the criteria that they set forth.
Yeah.
I don't think we can go to them and say, oh, we aren't decided yet. We got these 3 options. We need to have something solid in order to engage that process.
So you don't think that we could ask them what they would fund for us with our circumstance?
Well, we can. Again, I did send an inquiry to them, and once I get a response from that, then I can ask them, what they may fund.
they've got money and we need money. And so let's hang our hat on something. Give it a try.
Well, we had definitely anticipated, trying to engage that process. But again, I think we need to have something solid to go to them and say, this is what, the city of Brunswick is trying to do. How can you help?
Well, I think we'll know by next meeting. So I'm comfortable with this and I appreciate y'all doing this, really do.
Okay, any other comment on this item, commissioners? We appreciate our city manager, appreciate our deputy clerk too as well, getting this information to us. I don't think this will be the last we see of this. We definitely, as Commissioner Kaysen said, we can use some help and as we try to do some things for our city.
Thank you.
Okay, it appears that we have come to the end of our printed agenda. Before I close out our meeting, is there anyone have something they would like to say before we adjourn? Seems not, we already have executive session, so therefore I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Motion
Third.
second for adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I'll see y'all later. Thank you all so much.
Gotta raise your hand. man.
Good
I
night.
apologize for pushing this other monument thing back again.
Have a good evening.
Good
Have a
night.
good evening, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.